So my first introduction to business, I remember, was Orkut. Orkut was a social network, and that social network was very popular at BITS. And I used to spend a lot of time on it, just checking it out. And one day, a question just popped up in my head. How the heck are they making money? Why are they running this business? Is this even a business? And I remember pinging one of my seniors at like 3 or 4 a.m. I still have a screenshot of that question where I asked him, so, why does the Orkut team run Orkut? It seems to be for free and nobody seems to be making any money off it. And then he tells me that it's the data. It's the fact that you can make money off it by running ads in the future. But if they started running ads today, nobody would use Orkut because people don't want to see ads on their friend's profile. But if they can build their reputation and their network to a scale where they can run ads and nobody's going to mind it, they're going to be able to make a lot of money. And that's the business of Orkut. And that's why it makes sense for you to invest a lot today and then make money later. It's like buying a machine. And I think when that connection clicked in my head, that building a product on the internet is sort of like, buying a machine so that it can then make money for you. That's when it all started clicking for me. And I think that was the start of my trajectory, because immediately after that, I instantly began to understand business models. How do you do that by writing code, and how do you do that with a really small team? So now, during that period, I was also interested in entrepreneurship because of the entrepreneurship club at BITS that I was part of. But I was more interested in rural entrepreneurship. My family, my parents, that primarily grown up in villages in India, and I always thought there was just so much business potential, in those villages. So I was interested in rural entrepreneurship. So I was very focused on running a rural NGO right outside BITS. So we had run an NGO which employed like 20 women.
Was it Pampadam or something?
Parampara.
Yeah.
Yes, so it used to be called the Parampara project. And it's something that my seniors had started. And every year when you have new people coming in, new students coming in, they take over that project and they run it. So even today it's running in some form at BITS. They still work with that village and a couple of other villages. So it hasn't scaled that much, but it's a way for students to go in and engage with the local community, create sources of employment for them, and use that as a case study to learn about accounting, money, how do you market stuff, and do all that. So that was my introduction to entrepreneurship. But introduction to entrepreneurship as a career, I only began thinking about it in my third year of college. By this time, I had learned a little bit of coding. I had also learned that I'm actually interested in business, and I'm also interested in doing it with a team of interesting people. The thing about BITS and that I've not been able to replicate so far is that it was just a large collection of very, very smart and motivated people who were spending a lot of time with each other, talking about all sorts of problems in the world and talking about all sorts of ideas that nobody else would be interested in. And the reason we could do that was because at BITS, there was nothing else to do. It was in a village. You could, of course, go spend some time on your computer watching a movie. But beyond that, you would just spend so much time with each other, working with each other. And I realized that's the environment that I had been missing my entire life. And I realized if I could do a startup, I could recreate that environment for myself and everybody else in it by having a bunch of really smart people working together and doing all these things together. So in third year, I really began thinking about entrepreneurship because I realized I'm going to be graduating soon in 2 years, and I need to figure out how to get a job. And I also need to figure out how do I sort of keep the BITS party going. So that's when I seriously started thinking about entrepreneurship and thinking about it as a career. And I only pulled the trigger, in my 5th year, and I actually started working on a real startup. But between 3rd year and 4th year, I was writing B plans for B plan competitions I was also doing internships. I also traveled the world during that period. I went to Europe like 5 times in a year without taking any money from my parents, by just by doing paid blogs, by writing for other people. So I also realized I'm not really gonna struggle to make money, because I seem to be able to make money by freelancing and just figuring my way out. So I realized I should try my hand at entrepreneurship, because I seem to be able to figure my way around all these different situations that I've never been in. Because before going to BITS, I had grown up in a small city with very little exposure. Everybody that I knew was an engineer. I did not know that people were lawyers or accountants or anything outside of engineering. I just did not know that people had MBA degrees, and there was this concept, because I grew up in the steel plant township and everybody in the steel plant was an engineer. So I grew up in that space where I assume that everybody in the world is an engineer. Everybody's like building stuff or working on something related to science.
Yeah, going to Europe might have challenged that perspective as well, right?
It did. That's when I met people who weren't even going to college, who were designers, who were making music, movies. And that's when I realized, oh, it seems like the world is a lot bigger than I thought it was. And that sort of exposure gave me confidence that I can definitely go take a risk and try something different, and I'm going to be okay.